How's it going, everybody? So, feats as a topic have been talked about a lot, not just by me, also by other content creators, as well as the community in general. And I don't think that's stopping anytime soon. Quite the contrary, actually. The core combat update was supposed to come with some major feat reworks, which I don't think was the case. Nothing major about adjusting some numbers. Emphasis is on some here. Most were left completely as they were, contrary to what the community expected, like damage feats still do the same obscene amount as in the past. Whether this points at the next big balance overhaul being feats, and what we currently have is just Ubisoft collecting data, well, that remains to be seen. But feats are a delicate thing, especially in terms of balance. A lot of them just seem tacked on. They are not like abilities in MOBAs or MMOs or whatever other genre. Our core combat, the art of battle system, is already enough to have a game. Just look at the game modes that don't have feats enabled. They function just fine and don't feel like something's missing. But what do I mean with tacked on? In an ideal world, I think the feats would be an extension of a hero's kit. They would complement and enhance a character's moveset, giving additional properties to moves or buffing specific actions. And sometimes this concept very much holds true. TND's unique feats do exactly that. But other times, feats seem like a lazy addition. Press a button and your opponent dies. Well, look at Spearstorm. Press a button and heal some HP. Second wind. I could go on and on here, but I think you guys get the idea. The distinction here is important for today's topic, because feat selection is vital when talking about how strong a hero is. We've had instances in the past where a hero was solely picked because of one or more feats. Jungjun is a good example here. Soothing Mist was incredibly overbearing when March and Fire came out, both in terms of raw numbers for the heal as well as the cooldown. It wasn't all that rare to see the Grandpa use the heal twice in a team fight. A lot of the other shortcomings of the hero were completely ignored, as the upside of just having this one feat would completely counteract them. But the forgotten from the title isn't meant to be just me reminding you guys of what happened to feats in the past. A lot of feats just never had any time in the spotlight at all. From their introduction until now, many of them have never seen a single change to them and are completely overshadowed by other options for hero selection for that tier. And the sad part here is that a lot of feats whose design is very unique and fitting for specific heroes simply can't compete with random damage feat number 17. It's very rare that heroes can actually have multiple different feat loadouts and still be competitive or even allow for a change in playstyle. Point I'm trying to make here is, and I know this intro has been going on for a while, point is that support feats most often just aren't worth picking, either because they're too hard to make work or are flat out garbage. Yet these could enhance the general enjoyment of feats when looking at them as a whole. While effective, no one enjoys getting bowed for 50 damage from off screen or getting insta-killed by a Spearstorm. This doesn't mean that support or non-damaging feats are always enjoyable. Yeah, talking about you, Oathbreaker. Should Ubisoft ever actually get into reworking feats, then this is what they should keep in mind: enhancing their character's kit. Be that with more passive feats, or feats that, when activated, give bonus to one's fighting style. Alright, but let's just take a look at some feats that a lot of you have probably seen used only a handful of times, maybe even that. First one, TND Sacrifice. A tier 2 feat, as the name suggests, sacrifices some of TND's health for a heal over time effect, plus full stamina for all nearby allies. To give some actual numbers, it costs 50 health for the TND and heals 30 health over 24 seconds of all allies within a 21 meter radius. First impression when hearing those is probably 24 seconds is way too long to be worth it. But it's quite the contrary actually. The fact that it takes so long for the heal to come through is what gives it its unique side effect. All bleed and fire is instantly cleansed. During those 24 seconds, you are immune to any form of damage over time. So the overall healing amount is more or less negligible. It basically functions as an immunity. The big problem with Sacrifice is that you need to find the correct time to use it. 50 HP is quite a big chunk out of TND's total health bar. Ideally, you'd use it on a point while healing is active, right before a team fight. But with point healing being slowed down, it is unlikely that the full 50 HP will be healed back by the time an opponent enters the point. I'm completely fine with this feat being pretty strong for the tier 2, as its use is very niche, yet I think the drawback is a little bit too much. So the options here are to simply make it cost less, make it 30 HP. Or make it the opposite of what it does. For 24 seconds, we drain the TND for 50 HP. The counterpoint I got when talking about this on Discord was that this means the TND can kill himself or die to chip damage. That's a significant drawback as well. But when we look at the other unique feats he has, aka the shield when low plus the life leech, this downside of his tier 2 can be negated by simply unlocking his other feats. It's not necessarily a tier 2 that's unusable until you unlock tier 2 and tier 3, but feats complementing each other. I personally like the idea, but I can also understand when people consider this a weird or even stupid one. Well, it's worth a try, I'd say. At least it would fit with the uniqueness of it being a heal over time, with a life drain over time. But moving on, next one is Fiat Lux. Back in the day, an incredibly powerful feat, and since the nerf, never really seen again. People are tempted to make it work, and people claim it's worth picking, but I think that's a rather hard sell. Let's look at what it did back during its heyday. First of all, it had all the current properties, but on top, it also did 25 damage, quite a big chunk for the tier 2. And the most broken property was the fact that you could no longer dodge. It put you out of stamina already so you couldn't roll, but it also prevented you from dodging. That's why Fiat Lux confirmed multiple bombs in a row. It was great fun back then, everyone enjoyed this a lot. Enemy's weak, by the way. What the little flashbang has left now is simply a full stamina drain and a stun effect. And a stamina pause, I guess. This affects opponents as well as teammates and you yourself equally. So feat can be quite a nuisance if not used properly, and that's its big drawback. It can be really good, but it can also completely mess up multiple people. But how would you make this feat more viable then? Take away the risk? That will make it an insane teamfight interrupt. Give it back damage? That would once again make it stupidly good minion clearing tool. A lot of minion lanes are accessible from capture points with bombs, so you don't even have to stop boosting to kill minions on a 60-second timer. I think the feat itself is a really good example of a support tool that is incredibly hard to balance, as its use isn't as straightforward nor easy as many other feats. It also competes with things like Juggernaut, Shield Basher, Haymaker and stuff like that at the moment. 1 out of 10 uses it will probably work out amazingly well. Well, the other 9 times it either does nothing or probably has a negative effect. But I want to mention another tier 2 feat, but for a slightly different reason. That feat's not unused or anything, on the contrary. It is currently the one sole feat that is banned in the upcoming Dominion series. Yes, I'm talking about Smoke Bomb. This feat has remained untouched for so long that I think we can make the argument that in this case, it's about Ubisoft that has forgotten about it. So many times in the past have I thought about making a video explaining in detail what the feat actually does, but it's so incredibly inconsistent and doesn't even work properly on minions. So why would it be consistent when it comes to players? Getting parried in your own smoke, not being able to log on to someone in your own smoke, being easily external, and so on. I'd love to know what Smoke Bomb is supposed to prevent and what you're still supposed to be able to do while in it. Or when you're outside of it, someone else is hiding in it. Interactions are overlapping a lot and seem to not always follow the same rules. Point is that not only have we never been told any specifics, it also hasn't been changed in all that time, which, first of all, is a big problem, and second of all means that it's probably working as intended, whatever that intention might be. It is a powerful feat, for all the wrong reasons. So let's not have it be forgotten for another couple of seasons. The player base is reminded of it almost every time they play. Which is not the case for all feats. I could go on and on with a list here. Thread of Fate, Uninterruptible, Benefaction, Tainted Gift, Steadfast, and many more. I bet that for a lot of the names you just heard, you don't even know what they actually do. Many of them are just flat out not interesting, weak, or completely overshadowed by other options. Whether they were introduced that way or nuked out of existence by nerfs is kinda irrelevant. We often talk about how we want feat variety and more options and more viable feats and blah blah. Well, talk is easy. And for some feats, adjusting them isn't all that complicated. But for many of them, it's actually quite nuanced and not such a simple task after all. Whether we'll get a complete overhaul like we wish is still up in the air. The fact that we have so many different kinds of feats makes it even harder, but I also think that it's quite obvious that 50 damage projectiles and instant kill tier 4s, feat stacking, etc. needs to be addressed. Feats are, after all, an integral part of the 4v4 game modes, and not having them would probably make it quite a bit more boring. everyone can test this out for themselves. Just play a custom lobby and disable them. Well, I guess that's it. Feats will probably remain a big topic that always offers stuff to talk about. So let me know if there's anything in particular that's of interest at the moment. For now, I hope the video was interesting. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.